Nobody's watching yet? Hi everyone, it's Mary Lynn from Ecstasy Crafts and welcome to our virtual class. This is our first evening class, so I'm hoping this is an okay time for everyone. We will get started and I'm going to show you what comes in the kit. I'm just going to switch my cameras here. All right, so today we're going to make these 2 cards and a tag. And we're going to use this die and tag set, which, I see Susie from Illinois is with us this evening. So somebody from the US. I hope it's as beautiful there as it is here. It's nice and mild. So this die set includes a floral border, and we're going to make this into a card. It's got a lovely little scalloped edge and a beautiful floral border. It has 2 different layers, and the layers fit around the flowers. We're actually not going to use these in today's class for this die. We are going to use it for the tag. But you can do something similar with this larger die set. And I do have an example of a slimline card I made for a little bit later. I'll show you. And then you have the floral border tag with 2 layers. And then you get all of the flowers, and you get a die that will cut the whole protector for around the tag. And this you can use for any tags. And although this has a floral border, you can even just cut this off, and then you have a great tag set for any time of year. So that's all that we're going to really use today, along with some cardstock. And I thought what we would do is get started with this card. So this card, all I did was I cut the entire die from a light blue color paper. And then I cut the white piece from a piece of white cardstock. And I just created the scalloped border along both edges. And then I just overlaid it. So it's actually a very simple card. So hopefully everyone has some paper. Now, if you are choosing to use another color, not a problem. It will go with any colors that you might have available. And then all I did was add a few little flowers and a sentiment. And so quickly you can have a lovely card for any occasion. I happen to put with sympathy here, but it could be happy birthday or thank you or whatever you're going to use it for. So let's get started. And I'm just going to move a few things out of the way. It's always a good idea if you have a larger die cutting plate that at the same time as you're cutting your card base or the overlay, you can cut some flowers as well. I'm using my smaller machine, so it doesn't allow me to do that as easily. So I'm just going to cut this overlay. Now, the die actually cuts a design that's 5.5 wide, which is perfect for your A2 size card because they're usually 4.25 by 5.5. If you cut your paper just a little bit easier or a little bit larger, it allows you some wiggle room because there is a stitching component to the side of this die and along the edges. So place your die on top of your cardstock and then run it through your die cutting machine. And then we'll have our overlay basically. I'm just going to have a little piece of tape here to make sure it stays in place and just double check that I'm going to get that stitched edge. All right. So I have my design cut. Oh, and I missed the edge a little bit there. I forgot my garbage pail too. Now I might, yeah, mine didn't actually cut through in one part. So I'm going to line it back up and run it through again. I'm using a machine that I don't always use, so just to figure out the adjustments here. All right, that looks better. So very quickly, you have a beautiful floral border. And you can see how lovely that is. It has the same flowers as that you get to cut individual flowers. So a flower that has some petals that you can lift up, or you can lift the sort of thinner layer up. You've got a just sort of an open petal flower, and then you've got different sizes of flowers. Now, if you wanted, you could now place your die back on your design and run it through your machine with a rubber cutting mat or embossing mat, because that would just emboss sort of this area of the flowers. And I did actually do that on this. And oh, I do have a mat here. All right, perfect. So I'm going to show you the difference. I don't know if you can kind of see it's pretty flat right over here. But when I emboss it, it will be raised and look more like flowers. And since this design, we're just going to leave the border, I'm going to emboss it. So it actually gives some more dimension. So for my machine, I just have to adjust the rollers a little bit to allow for that cutting mat. And I'm just going to roll it through as far as the die goes. I just lost the little adjustment knob. So sorry about that. They do. Oh, there we go. Okay. So I'm just going to run it partially through and then have it come back. This is low tack tape I'm using, but I just don't want it to mark the card. And then you can see here how it's now embossed, and it looks like more of a pillow type effect with the flowers. It did make a little mark, but I can always add another flower there. So that's what we're going to use for the overlay. And now we can cut the background card. So this is slightly larger than 5.5 wide. So it's just over a half of the 8.5 by 11 page. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my die close to the edge. Make sure my edges are going to be cut. So I want it so that I get the stitched edge, although we're going to cover most of that anyway. And what I'm going to do is you can either just die cut as far so that you don't die cut any of the flowers. So I would die cut as much as you can if you're able to, if you have a cranking machine. If you have an electric machine, you can do something similar, but you're just going to have to stop it before you hit the flowers. Or the alternative is that you have the die hanging off where the flowers start so that they don't die cut. Because your dies will only cut if there is something underneath, if the die cutting plate is underneath it. As soon as it goes off, there's no more pressure enough to cut. So because we want the stitched edge along everything, just make sure that you don't cut the flower border. And then we're going to turn it over and do it all over again to cut that last half. So I'm just going to run this through. Okay. So now you can see that I have the border cut. I'm going to have to poke out the little holes, but the border's cut, and I have my stitch edge this far. Now I can just peel this off. And what I'm going to do is do the opposite side, and I'm going to try and line up the stitched edges. They should sort of click into one of the little edges. So you want to make sure that the scalloped border is right along the edge and that it sort of fits into the die. You can kind of try it a couple ways to see if you can get it to fit into the the little edges. I think I had it and then I moved it. And when you're happy with the edge, then you can run it through your die cutting machine. Now, you want to cut more than just the edge because you kind of want the stitching to go all the way down. But you can either, again, leave the flowers off the edge of your die cutting plate, or you can just cut so far. I'm going to just cut so far. And now I have a piece of paper that has a stitched edge along both edges and the scallop. I do have a little pokey tool here. So now you can just poke the holes out of the scalloped edge. And this is what I really liked about this die. And we'll make in the other card, we're going to make little scalloped borders that you can just layer up. And then on the inside, we're also using a little border just to finish off the card because you can actually see that through it. So you not only get the floral border, but you get this scalloped border. And again, you can use this for, I think I needed to cut it a little deeper. But you can use this border for any of your designs. And I thought what was really nice about this card is that you have the back, and I layered the back, but it's really pretty as well. So it kind of finishes off the card. And it really doesn't take a lot of extra time. Okay. Oh, we've got a few more people joining us now. So I'm hoping that this format works out well for everyone. And the reason that we moved to this format, meaning going live on YouTube and Facebook, is so that the videos are readily available right after the class ends. And that allows you to either complete your card or know that if you had to miss part of the class, that you're going to be able to go back and finish it in a timely manner. The team at the warehouse did manage to get all of our past videos up, and Corey did a great job on our class page, so you can readily find past videos. I'm just trying to get all these little pieces out. I have thick cardstock. All right. Now, what we're going to do is score this, the white paper, in half. So it should be 4 1/4. Just double check your measurements, but mine's, yeah, just shy. So I'm going to do it one little line from 4 1/4. Hold it down. Yeah, I didn't really get that one. I should have done 4 1/4. I'm just going to redo it. It's because you're going to cover. Oh, I didn't do it. Oh, I think it was 4 1/4 from one end, not the other end. Okay. That's pretty good. And then what I'm going to do is lay this over, and I'm going to make a mark. I don't have my pencil here. Oh, I do have a pencil. Okay. I'm going to make a mark kind of where the halfway point is, and then I'm going to score a line there as well. Okay. And fold it in half. And now you should be able to just add it on top of your card. Now it looks, oh, I think I know what I did. I trimmed it a little bit. I made it a little while ago, and sorry, I've kind of forgot about what I did. But what I'm going to do is, because you can see it's just a little bit longer, you can leave it like that, which is fine as well, or you can just trim it and then redo the scalloped edge. Depends whatever look you want. The other one, I think I measured it before I cut the second edge. I'm having problems with all my little holes here. And now all we're going to do is adhere the blue layer to the white layer. Now I'm just going to use some double-sided tape, and I'm just going to add 1/2 first, and then I'll turn it over and add the second half. Now the front, has more ability to, oh, I see what I did. I didn't have it go all the way down to the bottom. I'm sorry, I'm kind of messing this one up. So I just had the flowers go to the bottom layer and not in half, and that's why I might just score it again. And here I thought this was going to be the easier card to make first. All right. If you use a bone folder, you really don't see too much the score line, especially since we're going to add it on top of the card. Okay. And let's see, how does this match up the bottom? See there, it matches up bottom. So I'm going to tape my back layer first, and then I'm going to adhere the front layer. Oh, somebody's saying the video is freezing. Is it still freezing, the video? Looks like a Facebook comment. Might be Facebook. Let me know if it's still freezing or if it's resolved. Okay, good. Jennifer says no. Thank you, Jennifer. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to add the adhesive to the front. And all I'm going to do is add along the side. I am going to add a layer at the top and then just sort of along the diagonal above the floral layer. And then I'm just going to add the blue layer. Just take off my tape, and just partially, so that I can adjust it if I need to. I'm going to take the two edges off, just the ends. So I'm just going to place it. And then I've got this layer underneath that I can now remove. And then I can see how my floral layer looks. And when you fold the card up, I'm just going to make sure it's in the fold. Then I'm going to just peel these off. Now, I didn't add any adhesive behind the flowers. However, you could add some glue, and you can add the glue after if you like. If you wanted it, I'm just going to trim this on. Or you can leave it so that it's loose and they can be three-dimensional. Certainly didn't do a very good job of folding this card. And now what we're going to do is you can add some pearl accents to the centers of the flowers. And that's all I really did for this card. I added, so we need to cut a few white flowers using the single flowers. So I used the largest flower die, and I used the open petals design, and I used this, the medium size flower. So if you want to cut 3 flowers from white paper or whatever color you want for this card, then we can add those to the front of the design. What I really liked about this die set is that they actually gave you single flowers of all the different flowers in the border. So it allows you to add them on top, like we're going to do in the next card. I just have to, oh, here we go. So I just have some white cardstock here. And what I really liked about this die set too is that you can use a lot of your scrap papers, you might have little pieces of the different colors and then make them into flowers and add them to your card. Oh, that's my machine. So this little open petal flower is actually really pretty. And you can layer a few of those to create a larger flower. Now I thought I'd cut a few for myself so I could show you that. Well, I can't seem to find that either. So you can see, I'll just show you on this design how you can actually layer them and offset them and create that pretty little flower. So lots of options in this die set. I just used a single flower there, but again, you can make them double. And so you can just add these to your card with glue or sticky specs or your favorite adhesive. My glue is a little bit clogged. I arrived home after work a little later than expected today, so not as organized as I like to be. I might have to run and grab something. Oh, I have some tape. I'll just use tape today. Sticky specs. I have a page. Now, if you have a larger sentiment that you want to use, or you have a stamp sentiment that you want to use, you can easily put that. You've got lots of space to decorate this design. Oh, I do have sticky specs here. So those of you who are familiar with our sticky specs, they're little adhesive glue dots, and you can just sort of place your item that you want to adhere onto the sticky specs, rub it down, and then peel it off. This is a well-used sheet, but I only need a little bit. And you can keep using it over and over again until it's complete, like completely bare of the little adhesive dots. You can also shape these flowers a little bit if you wanted. And then add some pearls. Now, again, I don't have my glue working well to add the pearls. But I thought I would show you how I actually store my pearls and gems. I have these little bags that I get from the dollar store, And then I just punch a hole in them and put them all through a ring. And then I can just flip through. So you can see the different pearls and gems I have. So I can just kind of flip through and find something that would work for the design. This is my white pearls. So then I can just take it off, open them up, and add some pearls. I have a variety of colors here. I kind of put a whole bunch of things that I use often together. Otherwise, it's by color. But whatever works. However you want to organize your items. Oh, I do have a little. So this is the lid for this. Oh, there we go. Hopefully that. Good, good. So you can add colored gems, or you can add whatever you want. I'm going to add some of these pearls. I've got a variety of sizes here. I usually like to add glue to my gems so that they don't come off. Well, I'm just going to add a big one. And then you can add gems to the bottom floral design as well. And then you have your card completed. Now you can see how you can pull these little petals either up the thin version, or you can pull up the thicker version, whatever you prefer. You can put another design on top if you wanted as well, or put a smaller flower on top. And that's what I was going to show you with this card. So we are going to use 3 of the larger flowers and then put a different color of little flower on the inside. Again, just to make it a very colorful card. All right. So I think we should probably move on to our next card. And I'll leave you to add the little pearl accents and a sentiment if you want to this design. These designs lend themselves well to making a few that you have available. And then when you have a particular occasion that you might not have been prepared for, then you can add a sentiment. And that's what's always nice, to have these sort of all occasion cards that lend themselves to any occasion. All right, I chose With Sympathy in the design, and the die set that I used for this is a multi-sentiment die. I think it's called Say It With Sentiments from Hunky Dory, and you can create many, many sentiments. I think there's about 50 dies or something in that die set. And I use it a lot. I used it as well for the sentiment on this card, Happy Birthday. And it has a new home, baby, congratulations, graduation, retirement. And then on your 2 like simple words that you can add words together. So it gives you lots of options. Oh, best wishes. I used best wishes on this tag. So they all came from the same die set. You could even do birthday wishes. All right. So the next card design, we're going to do something similar, except we're not doing the layer on top. We're going to create this is a 5.5 square card. Now I did it so that it opens top from bottom to top. But there's nothing stopping you from doing it sideways, right? I kind of did it the one way, but you could, if the sentiment is this way, then you could easily open it from this side. So you can make whatever opening you want. The idea is that this is a 5.5 by 5.5 card. And what we're going to do is something similar as we did with the first design, where we're going to cut the border and then we're going to move our dot up so that we're just going to cut the edge and the leftover piece that wasn't cut of the stitched border. So that's what we're going to do. I do have a piece of, so this is just about 5 3/4 by 11. And I did it a little bit extra again, so I wouldn't have a problem cutting the stitched border. Because if I cut it just 5.5, it would just make it a little more challenging to get it exactly right, because it's going to cut that edge anyway. So what I'm going to do is, you can either cut the scalloped edge first, or you can cut the floral edge first. I think I'm going to cut the floral edge first. And again, I'm just going to move a few of my things out of the way. Make sure I don't lose my little flower dies. So I don't cut my floral edge, I'm going to just hang it off the edge. So you can see my cutting plate ends here, and I'm going to have it just off the edge. I'm going to have to run it through again. This machine needs a little tighter. So hopefully yours are die cutting okay. I do have very thick cardstock. I have 120 pounds, so it's I'm not sure I was able to. Yeah, still not. I usually use my large machine, which has a bigger plate. Okay. doesn't cut. Sorry, everyone. My machine is not cooperating. I'm trying to tighten it, but it doesn't want to grab the plates. So Tony, I guess, just joined us. She said she forgot about the time change. We just finished the first card, Tony. So the first card was this one. And now we're moving on to the multicolor card. Let's hope. Nice cut. It's getting closer. I'm going to do the other side. So once you've got your floral border cut, if you've taped it, just gently remove the tape. And then we're going to do the same line-up procedure, trying to line up the die with the stitched border so that you're going to have the stitched edge that is continuous. Okay, mine's going to work like that. It's a little fiddly to get it lined up again. There. You can kind of feel it when it slips into the slot. And then just as close to the edge as it's going to allow you to do. I didn't move that now. No, I think it's good. Sorry, my machine's just, oh, and I just cut the border, but I need to run it through again so I can join the stitched edges. I should have brought my bigger machine. So again, don't go over the flower border portion of the die. All right. So you can see I have my full little outside edge of my white sheet. And now once again, we have a card with the floral border and a scalloped edge along the opposite side. Just gonna poke out my little white my little holes here. And then you can press out parts of the flowers. Guess my dies didn't do too bad after all. Somebody's watching on 2 screens. Somebody said no sound. Oh, shit. Okay, there. Okay, good. I do. Oh, okay, good. I do not. So it sounds like Facebook and YouTube are, oh, she's got it back. Okay, good. All right. So now we have our floral border and our scallop border. And I have a mess on my desk. But what we're going to do is now score the card in half, and then we're going to decorate it. Now we can cut, maybe we should cut, well, we'll cut the flowers, I guess. If you haven't had a chance to cut your flowers ahead of time, which I did not for this design tonight, then what we can do is we should be able to cut the borders and some flowers at the same time. So in this design, what I did was I added color flowers on top of the open petaled flowers. So I have a pink on top of this white and yellow. And then I added some of the larger flowers in the middle of the biggest flowers, and I alternated colors. And then I added little flowers on top of little flowers, and I just alternated the colors. Maybe it's easier to see on the white. I did sort of have a pattern. So yellow and yellow. And then I just sort of alternated the pink and red. So I'm not sure what colors everyone's using this evening, but just mix and match. And when I cut the flowers, I cut one of all the flowers each time and just swap the different colors. And then I just decided how to put them together. Here I have a large pink, yellow, and red. And then I have the strips of yellow, pink, and red. My focus sort of was the red because I made the red sentiment and the red flower. And then I did the red border on the inside of the design as well. So however you want to decorate it, that's how I sort of thought of coming up with this design. And now we can cut some flowers and we can cut the border strips. So in the instructions, I talked about having the border strips thick enough. Get my ruler out here. So that if you look closely, I can see yellow through the pink holes. I can see the white through the yellow holes. So I wanted the yellow to be thick enough or wide enough, the strip, so that above the scalloped edge is a wide enough piece to show through the pink. And the same thing, the pink strip shows through the red holes. So that's all you just need to think about when you're making a size of strip. You can always trim it thinner, but you can't make it thicker. So the easiest thing to do, I think I had some of these strips. So I'm just going to put that on my paper or on my cutting plate. Actually, it's too wide for my cutting plate. So I'm going to cut it down a little bit. And then you can just, I'm just going to get rid of my little holes here. Just lay, I'm going to lay it on top. And I'm going to try and get to the outside edge, but not over it. And I'm probably just going to use a little piece of the low tack tape. And then I'm going to run it through my die cutting machine. Just that little edge. And it's going to cut the sides. So you're going to get the perfect width. So it makes it pretty simple. Because we do, or I do, have lots of scrap strips and little pieces of paper that would lend themselves to the flowers. This is thin cardstock, so it cuts nicely. And now this is a little thicker than I wanted, but I can take my paper trimmer and cut it, or I can just leave it thicker. Now, what I wanted to do at the same time as I was cutting everything was cut my flowers. Because when you have this open design of die, you can put something in the middle here while you're cutting and cut your flowers at the same time. What I actually like to do is leave the floral dies close to my die cutting machine. I often have a little frame, picture frame, and then put a piece of magnetic sheet on it. So it's standing up in front of me. And then the magnet, I can put the dies and they'll stick on it. And then I have them readily available to cut little flowers from the scraps that I'm creating. Another little tip there. Okay, so I'm going to do 2 of the red strips because I'm going to do the one on the inside edge. And now I'm going to cut some flowers. So I'm going to get all my flower dies, and I've got a variety of colors here. I've got the yellow and because we're going to use all of the, I just have to find my other flowers. So there's one die that comes in the middle of the tag set that's actually cuts 2 flowers together. So they're not separate dies, they are joined, which is fine. So I'm just going to cut all yellow right now. So I'm just taking them out of the dies. So I've got to just gonna match. I had a little bit of a darker yellow. That'll work. So I'm gonna need one more of the open petal if I do the same design. But don't feel you have to do exactly like this. So I've got my other strip done. Sometimes just hitting the or tapping the die will get rid of some of these little confetti. I guess you could keep them if you wanted as confetti for a shaker card. All right, so now I'm going to do my yellow strip. And I'm going to do some red flowers. I have lots of red. Oh, here we go. Here's my red scraps. I have a squeaking handle, so I'm not sure if you can hear that, but I definitely have to fix that. So now I have a whole bunch of the red flowers. So again, this is a pretty quick card. If you have a bowl full of flowers, so any kind of scraps that you have, you can die cut them when you're die cutting other designs. So now I have a yellow strip. I have two red strips. And so I just need my pink. And I'm going to cut some pink flowers. One day I forgot my garbage pail. I'm having lots of garbage. I often have a little, one of those dye cleaning brushes would make that task of getting rid of the little holes very quick. Okay, so I'm going to just use this pink strip. Now, I have a wider pink strip, but I'm just going to place my die closer to the lower edge, so I don't have to cut my cardstock. And then I have that for use for other strips if I want to perhaps do two pink strips. I think I have 2 colors of pink here, but again, doesn't matter. It all is going to match together. And that's why if you know somebody who has a favorite color of pink or purple or blue, pinks, these colors, I thought these colors were kind of happy colors. One dye moved a little bit, so I'm going to push it in. So I needed 2 yellow open petal and 2 pink or 2 red, whatever you would like. So I'm just going to run, I have to use this single dye on 2 occasions, but I think I'm going to run a few other of the other dye sets or dye flowers at the same time, because I can always use them. So I need another pink. Here's that time. And I'm gonna run a couple little red, use up my tiniest scraps here. Another pink. Another pink. And I have another little bit here. And I'm going to finish off with yellow. Okay. And if everyone has their flowers cut or had them cut ahead of time, you can start attaching them to the card. Yeah, so what I wanted to show you too earlier was how you could layer these open petal flower so that they create a, I'm going to put it on my, so they can create a beautiful little open petal design. And you can mold those petals to stand up, go down, whatever. So that's another option for a different flower design using these dyes as well. Okay, so I think I've got lots of flowers. And for this card design, as I say, I just added them directly on top. So I didn't really do anything fancy with the flowers, except made the white larger flowers more colorful with one of the largest closed petal flowers on the inside. And then I added an opposite color of pearl to the center. And the open petal flowers, I just glued the colored flowers directly on top. And then the other sizes of flowers, I just glued them right on top as well, including those in this border. So we didn't emboss this design, but it didn't really matter because we added flowers just on top, so you wouldn't have seen it. And then maybe what we should do first, because everyone can add the flowers however they want them to be, but I'm just going to go through adding the scallop borders to the design, just so that it makes it the simplest possible. So in my design, I used the yellow at the bottom. And so what I'm going to do is add the yellow first. I don't really have to trim my yellow strip down because I'm going to add the other colors on top and it won't matter. So I'm just going to use my double-sided tape. And we actually didn't score our card yet. But so we do need to do that first, so we know where we're going to start our scallop border edge. So it really is a 5.5-inch square card. It doesn't matter if the front doesn't quite reach to the base. So I'm just going to score at 5.5. Because what we're going to do is add the red border to the bottom anyway. So now it's up to you if you want the red to be right at the top. I left a little white border, but it's up to you. So I'm going to get my pink strip. And you don't have to do the pink, yellow, red. But all of these are sort of a reasonable width. So I think that's pretty good. If you want, you can draw a little line or count your little stitch. I'm going to count my little stitch pieces. So it's about at 4 on mine. And then I'm just going to add this one. And what's nice is that the die cuts it exactly the correct width, so you don't have to worry about that. So you can just add another strip of double-sided tape just above the scallop or the holes in the scallop border. And then just place that right on top. And I'm just going to add tape to my red piece as well. If you want to trim them, you can trim them, whatever you prefer. Now the inner red piece, I did make a little bit smaller, but again, you could leave it larger. So I'm just going to overlap the circles. I really like this little scallop border, and I like the scalloped look to the card. Now I'm going to trim this down just a shade so that it's not quite as wide. And again, I'm just going to add a little bit of double-sided tape here. So I have a strip that's wide enough for me to add the 5mm width of double-sided tape, but there's also 3mm widths, or you can use glue or sticky specs, whatever you want to adhere it. And I just put it right over the white scallops. And now we can decorate put the flowers on. And again, remember, you can choose to open it on the side, or you can choose to open it from the bottom, whatever you prefer. I'm gonna leave it the way I kind of originally had the design made. And I'm gonna add some of my flowers now. How are we doing for time? Okay. We just have the tag left, so. Now I just chose 3 of the larger flowers for the white portion of the design, but again, you can choose any size of flower that you like. Most of the flowers that I added, I just added, like, especially to the larger flowers, I just added a little bit of glue to the center of the larger flower. You do have an opening, you can, and I left them, I didn't offset them, but you could offset them, right? So there's lots of ways to change up these flowers. And that's what I really like. I mean, I like flowers to begin with. And I'm sure most people, if they'd like to garden, have started gardening, have a summer garden. And I love having all sorts of colors in my garden. I'm supposed to do this. And then you can just run a little bit of glue around the flowers, the centers of the flowers as well, if that makes it easier to adhere them. Or use sticky specs. Sticky specs would work because they only adhere or add the glue specks to the area that around the hole. Oh, I see. I did this. There's a little piece of glue that was blocking my holes. I did have little flowers that I put in the center of the larger flowers. And again, just sort of a opposite color to the large flower design. And I did make a few other designs that I'm going to show you using this die. I seem to be missing one of my open petals. I thought I had two. Oh, I think I had to do one more. And then you can use some jewels to decorate the centers of the flower or pearls. I have more medium size than the smaller size. So when we cut the tag, I'm going to cut a few more little flowers. So I don't know how everyone's doing, because I'd like to get moving on to the tag. The tag isn't difficult because we've gone through most of the things, but there's a couple ways you can use the flowers differently. So that's what I wanted to make sure we got to. So you can see my card. I just need another little flower for beside the sentiment. I did have a little one here, and I need to cut another yellow open petal flower. And then otherwise, oh, and a medium-sized flower here. I think I'd use a red one. So that's what I still, oh, I have a little flower that just appeared that I can add somewhere. All right. So that's this design. So just using the accent flowers that came with the die set and just adding them on top and getting a whole burst of color. So whatever colors you prefer or your recipient prefers, you can make a card design that is personalized for the recipient. So let's just move on to the tag. Now, the paper that I used for the tag is a leftover piece that we used for the dogwood panel card. So it was made with Pixie Powders. So if you have a piece of Pixie Powder left over, you can use that. Or you can use pattern paper. And so what I did for this card was I cut the base out of white cardstock, and then I cut flowers from the Pixie Powder. This is one of the layers, so that I could add flowers back. And that's what I wanted to really show you about this tag. So I cut the two that were together that came with part of the tag. And then what I did was I added the two flowers that came out of those holes here onto the larger flowers. And then I had, because I put this layer on top of white, there's white flower openings, and you can either offset a different size flower into these openings or use one slightly smaller. If you use one slightly smaller, then you have the little white edge around it. But you could even use a smaller flower in this size, and you would have a little bit more white in the opening. So that's what I really wanted to show you as another way to use these flower dies, as use the negative really, and then put another flower on the inside. Otherwise, at the base, I just added a couple other little flowers, and I added one of the open petals on top, again, like we did in the other design, and added some jewels. So very quickly, again, you have a lovely tag using this set. So if you want to cut your tag, so if you notice, and I went through it at the beginning, but those of you who joined us a little bit afterwards, both the large die and the tag come with 2 layers. So you can choose which size layer you want. I chose the larger layer, I believe. Yes. So it just has a smaller white edge. Now I could add another layer on top if I wanted, or I could cut my pattern paper or my Pixie Powder paper from this smaller design, and I would have a larger white edge. So maybe that's what I'll use for this design I'm going to make tonight. So you can see the difference. So if you want to cut your tag from white paper, and then I'm going to cut my layer for the tag from another piece of Pixie Powder paper I have, but this one I use candy pink, and I think it's Mango Blaze. So it's just going to be pink and yellow instead of blue and yellow, or I think it was Aqua Lagoon we used. But this is another way you can use up some of your pattern paper, because you can do exactly the same with any pattern paper you might have. I'm going to see if I can cut both together. And I really like the idea that you get the tag and the die set, and that they can coordinate with the flower border. I'm going to cut the Pixie Powder paper separate to the flower, but you could cut it all together if you want. And I'm gonna have to just cut this. Okay. So here's my Pixie powder or pattern paper layer. And now I need to find, so what I did was I just sort of put the 2 flower dies and then I added another flower. And you can tape those in place if you want. And you can use larger flowers or smaller flowers. The die also cuts the tag hole. And then you get this circular die that you can add a different color around the hole if you like. Now, the layer cuts a circular opening at the top to add the protectors if you want. And you could cut those from Pixie powder, or you could even use some of the flowers if you wanted. You could add a flower at the top there as well. So whatever you prefer. And I like it that you can use the flowers that you've cut out for the base of the design. Now I do have some Pixie powder paper left, and I'm going to just try and figure out what size flowers. So you can see the difference in these 2 tags based on the layers I used. So this was this inside layer and this was the outside. So there's just a wider white border. But you could also layer them on. So I could put that right on top, and then you could have sort of white pattern paper, white if you wanted, and maybe only cut the flowers out of the top layer and you would see the pattern through it. So lots of ways to use it. And as I said at the beginning, you could just cut the floral layer away or not cut it to begin with. And then you would have just a straight tag to use. And you could do that for both of the layers as well. So you have a floral tag and you have a plain tag, which is great for Christmas season. So you can even use it for Christmas tags instead of the floral. So I'm going to add my Pixie powder layer to my tag. And I'm just looking for my tape. That's my glue. Okay, maybe I'll use glue. So I'm going to just glue these little flowers that I do have that I cut from the Pixie Powder paper and add them to the centers of these larger flowers. And it's quite interesting because I've got sort of a peachy pinky flower from this piece, and then I've got a completely yellow piece. And that's what's kind of fun about these Pixie Powders as well, especially when you mix and match the colors. So I'm just going to add the other Pixie Powder flower I had inside this yellow, or the hole here. And then you can see how you still have a little bit of the white border around that flower. But if I wanted, I could also put, and I wouldn't use this color for this design, but you can see how you can just add a cute little flower in the center of the white opening as well, to just create a little bit different look. So lots of ways to use these flowers. So I'm going to cut a few more flowers for my tag, and then we're basically done the tag. You can also add, I'm going to cut a few of these little circles so you can see that from my Pixie Powder paper. I just need a couple little ones here. I have to choose if I want pink or yellow. And I still did need a yellow, this yellow card. So again, another way that you can use some patterned paper and create lovely tags. Because sometimes you have smaller pieces, like the Pixie Powder paper I have here tonight, and you can just use it to make a tag that coordinates perhaps with the card. So these little, what I call hole reinforcers, so they cut them separately, they don't fold, but you can, as I say, use them to add around your tag. I always like it when it's kind of a coordinating color and not white. I think I added white to the original tag, but I didn't have as much space. So with this smaller layer, you actually can see. So you can see on the back that a little bit of pink, and you can see the pink more than this. I just fit it in with white because I liked the white in between the Pixie Powder paper. But when there's a little more space, I like the color. So again, you can use these for any tags, or if you're just using paper and you want just a coordinating color. I'm gonna, one of my smaller flowers in here. And I actually just need one more. Kind of need one more open petal. And another, oh, I guess I could have taken this one. put this yellow here. So I need a small one and an open petal. So leftover Pixie Powders paper is great for these tags too. And speaking of Pixie Powders, if you're not familiar with our Pixie Powders, you can check out the video for the dogwood panel card die. And we use the Pixie Powders there. And then for our next card class, we are going to try tea bag folding. So I know Corey managed to get the advertisement up, and I'm going to show you the kit and the cards we're going to make. And with that kit, you're going to get Pixie Sparkle Powder, 2 of them. So they are a purple and a sort of a light green color. So they're fun to work with. So they just have a little more sparkle than the regular Pixie Powder, a little more mica in them. So I'm going to show you those designs. But again, you could use those to make some tags like this if you like. All right. So I've kind of decorated my tag here. I'm going to add some jewels, and then that will finish off. A sentiment, add some jewels in here. So in this one, I didn't offset any of the petals, but you could do that like I did here. So lots of different flower designs you can make with these combinations of individual flower dies, and you can make a variety of beautiful floral borders for cards, tags. I'm going to show you a couple other samples I made as well. So I made a slimline card, and this card I used the 2 layers that came with the larger die and different pink shades. I used a stencil to create this border, and then I used a variety of flowers to decorate the design. This is a Sue Wilson die set. It comes with the wishes die, the shadow for the wishes, and it comes with some stamps that would coordinate with sentiments. This is the other die set that I used for the other sentiments. And then again, I used different combinations. I added some of the open petals on top of the larger flowers, and I added some white and left some just open, added some jewels. And I embossed a little bit of the upper layer. And again, I just modified the die, how I cut it, so that I could get a slim line. It's a little tricky. You can see it doesn't exactly fit, but you would never know really. It cuts out this little flower here. So that's another way you could use this die set. And what I'll do is I'll put some instructions for these onto our blog as soon as I have a chance to do that. And then I thought the die would also lend itself to wedding designs. And so I made this gatefold card. So and then when you open it up, the inside, I created the floral border, and I did the little scalloped edge, and I put a little bit of gold cardstock behind the scalloped edge. So you can see how pretty that is, white on white. And for this, because this is a 5 by 5 square, I was able to cut the flowers and then cut the scallop border. And I did that for both sides. And then I did it kind of opposite. You can see that here it has this open petal at this end, and then the open petal is on the bottom here. So it would kind of have a nice design flow in the gatefold. So that's another way you could use this die set. And then I used the little flowers to decorate this box. So this is a box I made using the Hunky Dory scoreboard. And it's just a little, like a jewelry type box. And I thought what I should do is make a box that would fit a gift card, because I thought that would work well. And then I decorated it with a little bit of pattern paper and put some coordinating flowers from the die set on top. So those are some other ways you can use this die set. I'm sure you're going to find lots of ways to use it. So I hope everyone enjoyed that class. Sorry for some of the issues with this card, but it is a fairly simple card. If you just get the, just don't put the flower border right down to the base. So when you're measuring, and then it'll all fit perfect. It was kind of serendipitous, I guess, when I made it initially. Sometimes things just work out. Okay, so now what I want to do is just go through what comes in the kit for the next class. So it is tea bag folding. I don't know if anybody's ever did tea bag folding when it was, when you actually use tea bags. So tea bags used to come with nice patterns on the inside. People would save their tea bags and then do folding and create these rosette type designs. However, Jamie Rogers has come up with a die set and a stamp set. Actually, I think there's 4 different die sets, and they have coordinating stamps. And in the next kit, we're going to use the pointy die set. Pointy petals, it's called. So you can see how it has little pointy petals. It has scoring lines that allow you to fold the patterns easily. And you get 2 sizes. I have it upside down, so because the dies are attached. It shows you kind of what you can create with it. And then on the inside of the die set are the folding instructions. So we're going to make, oh, and I'm going to show you the stamp set. So the stamp set is great. It's kind of like mandalas. And you can use the stamp separately, just as a lovely design. Or what we're going to do is stamp it onto, this is just copy paper. So very simple printer paper or copy paper, so it's nice and thin, that allows us to fold it. We're going, this is create the Pixie sparkle background. So you can see it has lots of shimmer and sparkler to it. So you get 2 colors of the Pixie sparkles, the die set, the stamp set, which comes with, I'm going to show you the packaging, a large die and 2 different patterns for the smaller die set. And you can see here, this looks like a poinsettia, which is great for Christmas. You also get the sentiments, happy birthday to you, because you're special and love you. So very versatile sentiments, and they're a nice size. I'll show you that here. So in relation to the tag, you can see the size. So it's a great stamp set. And the 2 Pixie Sparkle powders. And you get the die cut frame. So this comes with it. So you don't have to get the die set. It's cut for you. And you get the paper, the 2 sheets of white cardstock. And you're going to get 4 sheets of different colors of pink. So there's kind of a salmony pink, a very light pink, and a darker pink. And then an even darker, so 4 shades of pink. And we're going to make these 2 card designs. So you can check that out on the website. Dennis is offering free shipping for this package as well, which is great. It's $62.50 Canadian and $49.99 US. So you can check that on the website. But it is one of our all-inclusive kits. You do need your basic tools, like your die cutting machine, some glue, tape, foam tape, and then the copy paper. But otherwise, you're going to be able to make everything with what comes in the kit. So these 2 designs are Jamie Rogers' designs, and he's the one who designed the die set and the stamp set. And then, so we're going to make these 2 cards during our next class, which is June 9th. And then on June 23rd, so 2 weeks later, I'm going to come up with designs to use the same die set and stamp set to try and use it in different ways. So we're going to use it for 2 classes. So again, like you can see, it has lots of dimension. And it does, well, this one folds flat. This one is folded in a different way. So it is, it doesn't fold flat, but it creates a beautiful rosette. I thought it would be really pretty on top of a box or something as well, in addition to a card. And this is like a Z-fold card design. And then this one uses the copy paper, and we stamped using one of the stamps. But you can see how even folding the design, it all lines up again together. So those are the cards for our next class. So check out this kit on our website. And if you weren't able to finish all of the designs this evening, then the video will be available on Facebook and YouTube. So Tony's just asking, what weight paper do you usually use for cards? So if I'm making a background card, I use, so like the white paper, I usually use anywhere from 100 to 120 pounds. So pretty thick. For any other color, it's usually a lighter weight. I use watercolor paper for the Pixie Powder, so it's a little thicker. But otherwise, the blue color was a lighter weight. I think it's about 65 pounds. And then for the Pixie Powders, this is copy paper. And I stamped on it with like a VersaFine ink. So it needs to be like a ink that resists the water, because we're going to paint with the Pixie Sparkles as well. painted in here, and then I did some purple. It's harder to see on the, oh, there you can see it a little bit. So you will need a tiny paintbrush. If you don't want to paint, you can also use a marker to color in different areas of the stamp design. Just to add some color to your stamp design, but you can see how many layers there are. And it's really, it's very simple to do. And I'm going to play with the folds. And maybe we'll try and make a Christmas card, because I know it's almost July and everybody starts making Christmas cards in July. So I thought maybe I'd try something like that just to show how versatile they are. So does anybody have any other questions before we finish off this evening's class? No one's writing anything right now. So hopefully the Facebook and the YouTube worked out well for everyone. We are going to try and use the Facebook and YouTube for our classes, just so that you have the videos readily available. And we'll also link them on our website. And check out the new class page if you haven't visited recently. Corey did a great job putting all the classes with links to the videos on the class page. So that makes it very simple if you missed some of our previous classes. Well, thank you for joining me, everyone. And I'm just going to try and get myself back. Oh, there we go. So thank you for joining me. Have a good few weeks. And hopefully you'll join us again in 2 weeks on June 9th. And we're going to aim for 6:30 to 8:30 again. We might rotate between afternoon and evening. But right now, I think to commit to every couple weeks, I'm going to have to do the evenings. So we'll see you then. And have a great couple of weeks. Thanks, everyone, for joining us this evening. Bye-bye.